And hello YouTube, this is your captain speaking, and I am here with another fanfic. That's right, another fanfic. Only this time, this is gonna be a lot more gory. So, if you're a bit squeamish with guts and parts being lobbed off, I would not recommend you read this or hear me read about it. But if you want to, you may continue listening. I'm going to read Rocket to Insanity. This is sort of like a cupcake thing, but it's kind of like a branch off of it. Like, it's gonna be worse than Rainbow Factory. I know that. I've read it before. So, without further ado, once again, this does have gore and death of other ponies. I strongly urge you, if you are squeamish with those kind of things, I would not recommend you listening to this. But if you don't really care, I guess I'll just keep going. I'll shut up and start the story. Oh, and before I start, I will be trying better than my Rainbow Factory read aloud. So I'm gonna try to add more oomph to my voice. So again, you're gonna have to bear with me here. Ah! 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 Screams echo through the cloud palace of Rainbow Dash's home. The filly started wide awake in cold sweat. Terror surging through her veins. Nightmares. Again. The 7th time this month. And it was always the same one. The one with the cupcakes. Flashes of memory lance through her head. Wings being hacked off. Then ripped from their sockets. Needles plunged into her beating heart. Adrenaline injecting into her body to keep her awake and alert as the torture went on. The smell of her own flesh cooking. The sight of her own blood and gore spilling from her surgically incensed belly. The mastermind behind her terror toying with those glistening organs like they were party favors. She knew in her heart that Pinkie Pie would never be capable of doing such gruesome act. But that thought didn't help her make the dreams any less vivid. The Pegasus pony sobbed openly, curling up in her blanket and rocking back and forth as her body trembled with fear. She hadn't told anyone about her dreams, about the lingering feelings of steel piercing flesh, a blade cutting bone. Her work had suffered because of the constant night terrors. The nightmares being so powerful that she was simply afraid to go back to sleep. Some nights staying up altogether in an attempt to stave off the horrors for just one more night. And every pony wondered why she spent most of her day napping in the open, in the daylight. Because in the shining brilliance of the sun, it was the only way she could actually rest. But even then, the black clutches of her fear-addled subconsciously had begun to creep even into the residence, safely flowing her through the dreaming world. Dash whimpered as tears streaked down her face, streaming the fur of her cheeks as wide and darted down darkness century of her room, heart pounding in her chest as breaths come before hiccuping sobs, her wings clutching tight against her form as paranoia begins to clutch the edges of her mind. Shadows lurched and moved in her peripheral vision. Routine, natural noises became distorted and echoing within her mind as adrenaline surged through her shivering form. This wasn't healthy. Her mind was slowly breaking under the horrors of her subconscious mind. things that no pony would ever have the slightest thought of chipping away her psyche. She was starting to crack. Rainbow Dash? Rainbow Dash. Hey, has anybody seen Rainbow Dash around? Applejack trotted through the streets of Ponyville, looking high and low for the town's resident speedster pony. Bystanders, they shook their head and shrugged. Horse Feathers figured that pony nowhere to be seen when you really need her. The cow pony sighed and continued through town, hoofbeats kicking up dust as she looked for the sky for the Pegasus pony. Gosh darn it! Rainbow Dash, where in the world of Equestria are you? A long yawn from the branches of a tree behind her met her answer. The pony in question, dipping a head down and gazing at Applejack from an upside-down position. What, Applejack? What is so important that you'll have to interrupt my napping? The western pony stamped a hoof on the ground, scowling at the Pegasus. Now you know just why I'm making a fuss to find you. You said you were going to bring over a little rainstorm for our crops at Sweet Apple Acres nearly 2 hours ago. Instead, I find you here in a tree snoozing your little behind off. Dash gave a groan, slipping out of the tree and landing on her hooves, shaking her head. She looked more disheveled than usual, her mane a mess, dark bags under her eyes from many sleepless night. She looked pale, sickly almost, yet still tried to put on an air of cheerfulness. She's having a yawn. She heaved a yawn before giving a dismissive wave to Applejack. Yeah. Keep your saddle on. I'll get to it right now. Sorry and stuff. As the Pegasus pony turned to spread her wings to take off, Applejack tilted her head and gave to her a side frown. Dash, you feeling okay? You look under the weather. Dash grumped, shrugging her shoulders and gave her wings a little test flap. Fine, was the only response from the Pegasus. The cow pony behind her stepped forward, giving Dash's side a little nudge with her snout. You sure about that? She was caught up by the Pegasus, suddenly jerking away from Applejack, darting up into the air as her eyes went wide. Don't touch me. I'm fine, honest, just... She nearly spilled the beans right then and there, but refrained. She couldn't take the chance of that the other ponies might think differently of her because she was being scared out of her mind every night by some stupid nightmare. Her body gave a little shiver as Applejack looked on with concern. I mean, gotta go. Before Applejack could say anything further, Jas was off like a rocket toward our Sweet Apple Acres, leaving the cow pony to scratch her head in confusion. That girl ain't just rad. Another terror-filled night. Dash laid curled up on the floor of her cloud house, blankets swaddled around her shivering form. It was worse this time. She had been flayed open, set upon a dining table of the pink earth pony, as slabs of her own meat, dripping with her life fluids, was shared from her flanks, served to all of her friends. Herself, somehow, still alive somehow, enough to be aware of the entire situation, hearing the laughters as they devour her living form, as fork and knife dug into her innards, tearing her apart. She was nothing more than a slab of meat to her friend's enjoyment. Hiccups punching through her heavy sobs as the Pegasus pony clutched at her head, and visions of her nightmare had been visited upon her, ingrained within her memory. Every horrible detail, from the fiery pain of rended flesh to the sickening sounds of her innards being torn and ripped out of her belly, was cast in vivid description. She whined as she laid curled tightly upon the floor, sniveling as tears gushed from her eyes. Leave me alone. Why won't you leave me alone? She hiccuped, rocking back and forth. I don't deserve this. Just stay out of my head. Just stay out. Get out of there, please. Just get out. Fear turned to anger. Dash hooves banging against her temple. Get out, get out, get out, get out! She wept openly, grinding her forehead against the floor of her room, hooves pounding at her head, bruising the flesh as pent-up frustration and sleep deprivation erupted in her agonizing scream of rage and sorrow. Another night, another crack in the window. Every pony had noticed it. It was in the way she walked, the way she talked. Her body language just screamed it. Gone was Rainbow Dash, the cheerful, brash speedster, replaced just by some hollow shell. She drifted aimlessly over Ponyville, as weeks of interrupted sleep had taken a toll on her. All of her friends knew that something was up, but none of them knew exactly what to do. She had pushed them away when they had tried to confront her, lashing out like a wounded animal anytime they tried to control her or plead her to get help. Too headstrong, some would say. Too proud, others still. But none of them realized the gravity of the situation until that one fateful day that Rainbow Dash finally snapped. It had been an unseasonably warm spring day in Ponyville. Every pony was enjoying the temperate weather, from Files to Colts and then some, as every pony went about their business. Lyra and Bomb Bomb chatting it up beneath their usual spot at the cafe, Applejack selling her first harvest at Sweet Apple Acres, as ponies lined up for those ruby delectables, and within the candy corner, Pinkie Pie was busy darting to and fro in the kitchen, picking up a storm. She glanced up to the clock every now and then, frowning each time the bell to the door finally rang open. A haggard-looking Rainbow Dash entered the shop. "Rainbow, you're finally here! Oh, I've been so worried about you. You've been all mopsy-dopsy, so I thought I'd ask you to come visit me so I could feel extra super special to cheer you up. But then you didn't show up, and I thought you were going to, and I was all sad because you're going to say you're cooped up in your house all day, but then you came here, now you're here, and now we're going to have some fun." Dash merely looked at her blankly, before shaking her head and stumbling forward. "Whatever. Pinkie, what did you want me here for?" The energetic Earth Pony bounced into the kitchen, over toward one of the mini ovens candy corner before pulling the door down, reaching in and pulling out a tray of puffy, fluffy cupcakes, with then a generous slathering of icing upon them. She spun around, grinning widely as she showed the baked goods off to Dash. "I made you cupcakes." Dash paled. Mind flashed back to the earliest of those nightmares, the most vivid, the most intense. A tray of cupcakes. Tasting it, finding motor skills rapidly deteriorating, stumbling as her body shut down under the effects of unknown drug. Pinkie Pie looming over her with a trademark grin, eyes gleaming as the world dimmed around her. And there it was, happening for real. Vision became hazed as the world began to spin around her, the Pegasus stumbling back and shaking her head, whispering under her breath, "No, no, 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 no!" She backed up, eyes wide with fear as she shook her head violently, looking around frantically at a way to get out. Any way out? The window? The door? "No, no, I don't want him. No, I'm not gonna let you. Let me out of here! Let me out of here!" Pinkie nearly tilted her head to the side, quizzically, setting the tray down and lifting a few of the cakes out and plastering them, bouncing over to the shivering Rainbow Dash and offered the plate to the Pegasus. Dash stared at them. They were the same color, same kind. "Run," a voice in her head saying, "Run. Run, you idiot, run!" A hoof lashed out, smacking the plate out of Pinkie Pie's hooves. "I said I don't want him!" I know what you're doing and it's not gonna work." Pinkie Pie frowned at the discarded cupcakes, but the typical Pinkie fashion, she just shrugged and went to cleaning them out, humming to herself. Maybe you don't like avocado icing. That's okay. I made some more so we can make some to your liking. Is that okay, Rainbow Dash? She glanced back at the Pegasus pony, letting out panicked whimpered noises, eyes fixated on the pony before her, pupils nearly pinprickles as fear and adrenaline coursed through her veins. She was pinned between Pinkie and the wall behind her, chest heaving with heavy gasps. Her sleep-deprived, horror-filled mind played the scene from her nightmares over and over again. Of the saw rendering the refresh, cutting through bone. Run. Get away. Scalpel piercing through her breast, dragging down from her flesh to her groin, flaying over her like some sick piñata. Move. Just get away. Get away. Get away. She was hyperventilating by now, no longer seeing a long-time friend, but a horror, sadistic butcher. Do something! And then she saw it. That shining, sharp projector just sitting there on the table next to her. The voice within her mind whispered like a seductive lover, sounding so wrong, but so right at the same time. Kill her. Dash hesitated. Part of her wanted to scream, another to run, but yet another considered the request. Kill her before she kills you. Her mind was a maelstrom of conflicting thoughts, the Pegasus feeling sick to her stomach, weak in the knees, the beat of her own heart pounding within her head. Take the knife. She stared at it, hoofs slowly stretching out, trembling, as part of her still tried to reason. Take it. Take the knife. Tears streamed down her face as her hoof hovered above the handle of the tool-turned weapon, as if the last fraying strands of her sanity knew what was happening, knew that it was fighting a battle it was going to lose. Take it! She snatched it up, holding it in front of her Pinkie Pie with shaky hooves, her ears spayed back against her head, hiccuping between sobs. Just leave me alone, please, Pinkie Pie, just leave me alone. Pinkie Pie looked at the knife being wielded by her friend for a moment, before giggling and bouncing toward Dash, whose heart sank as the filly rapidly approached. Oh, Dash, you silly filly, you got me a good one. Never one to turn down an opportunity to prank hit. She didn't think. Her body was acting on her own. A gasp. Pinkie Pie looking thunderstruck as Dash heaved, frozen in mid-strike, the slave of the blade of the knife dripping with red ichor. Pinkie Pie brought a hoof up to her cheek, battling at the white cut, looking at her own blood-stained hoof. Dash, what? I told you to stay away. Why couldn't you just stay away? Kill her. No, she's my friend. I can't. Kill her, and the hurting will stop. Please, Pinkie, just run. Oh God, please don't make me do it. Kill her. Kill her. Kill her. Kill her. Kill her. Kill her. What happened next was a blur. The memories fuzzy in Dash's mind as Pinkie tried to make sense of the sudden attack upon her person. Dash let out a chilling mix between a wail and a scream, catching the Earth Pony off guard as the blade darted forward, slashing through her neck, severing vein and artery as a gout of crimson issued forth from the wound. Shock and surprise registered on Pinkie Pie's face as she gurgled. Blood hemorrhaging from the wound, straining her pink fur with the red hue of her life essence. Again and again, that silver blade struck out, Dash speed not restricted to her flight as she plunged the blade into the filly before a rapid pace sobbing, hysterically and carving the squirmy and flailing filly up. Through breast, through bone, Pinkie Pie's struggle slowly faded as her blood was spilt onto the floor, and the Candy Corner's kitchen pooling around her, splattering the Pegasus on top of her with hot red fluid. "Just leave me alone!" she screamed out, fear turning into rage. "You couldn't just go away, couldn't you? You had to keep coming back." Pinkie's struggles grew weaker and weaker, her eyes wide with terror as tears streamed down her face, vision frozen in a mix of fear and anguish. What did she do? Was it the icing? Did she use salt instead of sugar? Why? As those slowly glazing eyes stared up at Dash, the strikes of the blade grew slower and slower. The Pegasus finally plunging the impale deep into Pinkie's chest, spearing through the filly's heart, ending her party once and for all. Dash heaved for breath, limbs shaking and looking down upon her handiwork. Blood stained her fur and feathers, painting her a deep crimson, wearing the life force of her former friend with some masquerade outfit. She sobbed, letting out a wail of anguish as she realized the gravity of what she had just done. Arms wrapped around the butchered filly, Dash holding the still warm corpse of her friend tight. No! I didn't. Oh, Celestia, what do I do? Dash's body shook as her chest heaved with each gut-wrenching cry of anguish, suddenly letting go of Pinkie's body and letting out an ear-piercing shriek of terror as she looked upon her own hooves. Blood and Versita coated them, dripping down through her fur. The scene was straight from a horror movie laid before her eyes. She skittered backwards, slipping in the pool of blood of her own creation, slamming cheek first into the pile of gore before finally gaining purchase of dragging herself over against the farthest wall of Pinkie's still form, her stomach mutilating on her as she emptied its contents on the floor next to her. Her mind raced, through running a mile a minute as she hiccuped. Wide, terror-filled eyes stared at the scene by her own hoof. Murder. She had committed murder on one of her own friends. It was unheard of. No pony had murdered another in hundreds of years. Voices within her own mind crawled to whisper to her, the world spinning around her as time seemed to stand still for her. The last vestiges of her sanity was being plucked apart, one by one, until the final thread finally snapped. Hoof grasped her head, matting her rainbow-colored mane down with blood and ichor. The Pegasus rocked back and forth in the bloodied kitchen as a crazed grin spread across her muzzle, humming disjointedly to herself. Giggle at the ghastly, snuggle at the spooky. Dashed to her head back, curling legs against her chest and her forelimbs wrapped around her. Psychotic laughter issuing forth the speedster Pegasus as a world shattered around her, seek and spirit broken and splintered.